major heartbreak that I had. I was like 21 years old, 20, 21 years old. And it stuck with me for like 10 years. I mean, I pined for that. I mean, it was me that screwed up the relationship. It was me that caused it to end. And I had so much regret and carried so much like, if only I could, and always kept wanting to try to figure out how do I go back and fix it and change it. I literally wasted 10 years of my life doing this. Now, flash forward, I don't know,
Another 10.
another 10, 15 years. And the last breakup I had, and it was an intense relationship. But that last breakup, I'd say maybe a week, less probably, before I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to move on. And that's what we're talking about today. Not that, you should be able to just be like, I'm done, right?
In a
So,
day or
in
a
a
week.
day or a week or
Yeah.
whatever. But how do you do that? How do you not waste so
10
much
years.
time, 10 years, right, on a relationship that was never
over.
was
Yeah.
over. It was never coming back. There was nothing I could do to go back and make it happen again.
Yeah,
Right?
but what I think is interesting about heartbreak or any loss, really, or grief, all grief, like there's no time limit on grief. Like we all wish there was a time limit. Like if we lose somebody that we love that's very close, not through a breakup, but through like a death, and they're not here on the planet anymore, or any kind of loss or grief, there's no time limit on it. You can have another resurgence of that grief as if it just happened.
Mm.
And what's interesting, because I know your story, obviously.
Yeah.
I know yours because I love you and you're my husband, and I know all your stories. But the thing about this one is you were pining over something you initiated, and then you were pining for that girl because she became like the one that got away somehow. Even though you were the one that initiated the breakup, your loss was like, oh, she's the one that got away. Like if only I could have not screwed that up, then everything would be better, different. I would be the man I think I am.
My whole life
would
would have been completely different.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think, I mean, to have the really, what's that song, right? The first cut is the deepest, right? And it's this idea that first heartbreak is really the toughest one. And I think it kind of is in the sense that it takes your innocence away. Like it takes that, but I mean, I was so much younger when I had my first heartbreak. So much younger than you.
Yeah.
I don't even have an age. I mean, I don't know. I had so many breakups. Like nobody stuck around with me. And so to me, it's like all of those heartbreaks compounded. But my first like real boyfriend, I was 14. It was Michael.
Yeah.
Michael.
I know the story.
Yeah. And the thing is like Michael broke up with me after going out for like a year. And then we spent another year of him coming back and then breaking up with me again and then coming back and breaking up with me again. And we ended up staying friends and more. I became part of his family. And so he couldn't get rid of me, much to his dismay, I think. And so that year of like on and off, finally I wouldn't take him back. And so I've teased him for many decades after that, where I was like, well, I was actually the one that ended things because I wouldn't take you back. Like you left, it came back to me. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this again. But I think that we don't know how to handle breakup, just like we're not really good at grief when somebody dies. Like we're in denial, right? Our society's in denial about our imminent mortality, right? And that kind of thing. And I think that love, that romance phase, that falling in love feeling is so incredibly intoxicating that we have a delusion that it's always going to be like that. And so when it doesn't last, when it doesn't work out, that we are so devastated because we're not told that we need like a skill set and to get educated to make love last.
Right, exactly.
Right. It's kind of like this thing like, oh my God, this thing that I was hoping would last forever, whoosh, it didn't. And so it's so incredibly heartbreaking. And that's why the first cut is the deepest.
The other song that comes to me, wait, before you say that,
I was going to introduce us.
Go ahead.
They've got to wait for it. So hi, everybody. This is Love Intervention. I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters. And if you're watching us here on Facebook, feel free to like us, to share. You can ask your questions in the comment section. We have our team checking that out.
Same on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube and the comments there, you can click that little bell and subscribe so you're notified the next time we're live. And if you're right here in the Vimeo on the live stream with us, which we do through Vimeo, thanks to our team. Thank you very much, team. And you can just pop your questions right into the chat. So we have team members collecting them at YouTube and Facebook to put them here in the chat box on the Vimeo. But if you're live with us right now, don't wait. We're having this little sort of episode theme around heartbreak and heartache.
Yeah.
But go ahead and pop your questions in, and we are going to be taking your questions live because ultimately this is like an AMA and ask us anything.
Well, it's a love intervention. We're here to intervene in, the tragedy of your love life or the tragic circumstances of your love life.
Yeah, so we can help you feel better and help you get the love you want. Because, love isn't something that just magically happens when you meet this mythical, magical unicorn of the right person, right? We're so deluded into this myth. We're so deluded into this fantasy. And so we want you to understand that love can be lasting and it can actually get better than that romance phase.
Right.
Ding, there's a wink in there. Ding, like if we had a little sound effects board, I would be like, wink. Back to the heartache. You were going to say something really profound.
Well, it's not profound. I just, it just popped into my head and I couldn't get it out, right? You talked about, Michael and him, and you wouldn't take him back. And I just think of that old blues song, right? I'll take you back when James Brown ain't funky and King Kong's no longer a monkey, right?
Yeah, I'll take you back.
I'll take you back, right?
Yeah, when this happens, which is never, right? Because James Brown always going to be funky, King Kong always going to be a monkey. And the thing is that idea, but I was so, but I did that on again, off again for a year. It was so devastating to me, from 14 into 16 plus, to have had this love that I thought would last, and then it didn't, and clearly, obviously, not the right person for me. I think of all the many decades I had to get to be, over 40 to finally connect with you. I'm well preserved. It's my birthday next week. So I just want to say, right, these could be questions about heartache and heartbreak. We like to have a theme to sort of warm things up. So if you have a question in this topic, great, but you can literally ask us anything. But we are going to talk about how do you work with that heartbreak. God, I can't talk. Heartbreak. Right. This heartbreak is something that's here for your benefit. What if you looked at heartbreak and heartache as an opportunity?
Ooh,
because
that's good.
We really believe that everything in your life is happening to make you a better person. It's here for your growth.
Right.
If you're willing to look at it that way.
So sometimes, people say, well, everything happens for a reason. And you go, oh, God, horrible things happen in the world. You're going to tell me there's a reason for those horrible things, right?
Yeah,
and so you get a lot
of
pushback on that. But instead, if you think that everything's happening as an opportunity for you to grow, for you to become a better person, well, that's completely different, right? Because if you have a tragedy in your life, right, it could be an opportunity for you to shut down and close down and withdraw from the world, or it could be an opportunity for you to open your heart and feel your grief and experience that grief and grow through that. We always say that when your heart breaks, it actually breaks open to receive more love.
There's more space.
There's that space, in a heartbreak where you're like, your heart is like wide open. It feels like, like your nerves are right on the surface of your heart. Like people can touch it and it's just like, but your heart is open and you're in the space to really experience that heart opening and to grow from it. That's a great opportunity for you.
Yeah. I went through so many breakups in college. My roommates all laughed at me because it's like the guy would break up with me and then I would spend, the following weekend locked up in my bedroom playing probably one or maybe two sad songs, right? And the same songs, like over and over, and crying and crying and crying and crying, more crying and more crying and sobbing and crying and the ugly cry in the bath and the shower and more crying and more songs and the same song and crying and right. And I had this ritual and I'd come out like Sunday evening, right? And they're like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good now. He's dead to me. And this was my breakup ritual. That's how I moved on, right? And I like to think of myself as a pretty resilient person.
Yeah, I think you are.
That's kind of where my resiliency comes from. And I didn't mean it like, oh, he's dead, like I want to go kill him. I meant he's dead, like I don't have any, I'm not attached to him anymore. Like I have freed myself. It's kind of like I worked full time through college. So it's like I always, I had to work. So I never had the whole weekend. I'd have to I'd put myself together, I had to go to work. But all my free time, I would do this morning ritual, right? This morning ritual where I would just cry and cry and play the same sad song or a couple sad songs. I would just find ways to make myself cry. And if one lost its juice, I'd find another one, right? And I would sort of mourn this relationship in this condensed period of time to like cut myself off from this person. So it's like I would grieve it in this intensity.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, because like the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference.
Yeah.
The opposite of love is indifference, right? That's like you don't feel anything. I mean, if love is this overcoming like humming feeling for somebody, right? Then the opposite of that is I want to kill you, right? Like love and hate are way connected. They're close to each other.
Exactly.
But love and indifference, wow, that's a 180, right? To say, oh, I have no juice for you. I got nothing. It doesn't land on me anymore. And so that's what I would mean, right? I'd come out of my room, my roommate say, how you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm good now. He's dead to me. Meant I don't have any feelings for this person anymore. And I never took anybody back after that. Michael was the only guy. He broke me of that ritual.
Well, that's an interesting one, right? Taking somebody back, because we actually had a client do this, right? Where she had dated this guy, and he was still separated but not divorced. He wasn't really emotionally available, but they hung out a lot and they really had a good time and they had a lot of fun. And eventually she realized, look, this isn't going anywhere, so she ended it, right? And then, I don't know, maybe 3 months later, he calls her up and says, hey, I was going through my golf bag and I found your sunglasses, right? And, I was wondering if you wanted your sunglasses back, right? And this is like a $20 pair of sunglasses. And it's like, really, right? This is your big play to like see if she's still on the line. Hey, maybe she's still available, right? The $20 pair of sunglasses. So we told her, it's like, well, what's different?
Well, they went for a walk. He came over with the sunglasses. She said yes, right? He came over with the sunglasses. They went for a walk and she said it was really nice and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, this was her question in the session, right? In her coaching session, she asked us, well, should I put him back in the rotation, right? Because she was dating,
right? But
she wasn't exclusive. So she's like, should I put him back in the rotation? I was like, put him back in the rotation. Like the guy you want to take it back is the guy who's like, oh my gosh, I was thinking about you and I miss you terribly. And are you seeing anybody? And when he finds out you're still on the market, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket. This is the luckiest day I've ever had in my life. I messed up so badly. I want to make this up to you.
Right.
Not the pussy comeback kid with the $20 sunglasses and the pussy comeback. Oh, I found your sunglasses.
Hey,
don't
you want
them? You want to hang out? Like, that guy was never leading the relationship forward. Like, what? Don't take the pussy comeback guy. No.
Right.
Take the guy back who's willing to fight for you and claim you and knows that he is lucky that someone else didn't scoop you up. Exactly. That's the guy you take back. But the thing, going back to the heartache, I think because Michael wore that out, that right in the beginning of my love life, basically, right? I spent this year of on again, off again, that I just couldn't take it anymore. And so from then on, I never took anybody back. I mean, he has a pretty unique name. I'm not going to say it.
Right.
The guy from my acting class. I'm just all I'm going to say. So this guy, he wasn't from my acting class. I never dated anybody from my acting class. I met him in a show, in a play. And then he joined my acting class. And I was mad because I was like, oh, this was my sacred space. And we'd been dating a while. And then he broke up with me. And then 2 weeks later, he wanted to get back together. And I remember I said, what's different? He goes, well, I miss you. And I'm like, that's not good enough. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, like, it's a whim. So it's like you had this whim to break up with me and you did. And now you have this whim that you miss me and you want to come back. So how do I not, in 2 weeks, you're not going to break up with me again? Like, I need something better than that, dude. Like, what changed? What changed for you? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, that's not good enough.
Exactly.
And even though we stayed friends, because you've met him, right? I mean, we stayed friendly and friends, and he's married now, I'm married now. We're friends on Facebook, all that good stuff. It wasn't like I was angry, but I was like, like, again, don't take the pussy comeback, right? No. Like, oh, I miss you. Like, that's not good enough.
All right. So we'll continue talking about heartbreak. If you have your heartbreak questions, throw them in there. But we do have a couple questions.
Or anything else.
Right? Yeah. Or anything else. We do have a couple questions.
Can we say who we are again? In case people join late.
Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Orna Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention. We are here to intervene in your love life so we can straighten it out, get you on the right path, get you toward that love that you really want, that lasting, soul-satisfying love.
Yeah, that one that's like, oh my gosh, but you catch his reflection in the mirror 20 years later, you're just like, your heart skips a beat. Like that.
Yeah. So if you're on Facebook, feel free to like us, share this video with your friends who you think might find it helpful. Ask your questions in the comments. Also on YouTube, click the bell, give us a like. Once again, you could use the comment section to ask a question. So we have Veronica, right? Veronica says, I have been alone and without a relationship since 8 years ago after my divorce. Sometimes I really feel alone and it's getting really sad for me. I'm 36 now. I don't know what to do. I'm pretty smart and kind, but I don't know what else to do.
All right. Well, first off, I'm going to say right off the bat, you are 36 years old, girl. You got your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 56 next week. Honor, Scouts, Girl Scouts honor. Like, honestly.
We were 40 when we met. Right?
Oh, I was over 40.
You were over 40.
You were 40.
Right.
I was older. I'm older. That's right. I'm older. So here's the thing.
So you got time.
You got a lot of time. So this idea of you're feeling alone and it's been 8 years since your divorce. And I think, Veronica, what I want to say is, where have your priorities been? Like maybe you have kids that you're raising, maybe you have a career you're working on, maybe you spent some time working on yourself. But the thing is the first step, right? Like love on purpose 101, I would say is really know thyself, right? All the sages say know yourself. So before you even start dating, I would start really looking at what kind of relationship complements the lifestyle that you have now. If you're comfortable in your life, right? Maybe you just feel lonely, you're just missing the guy. So if the dynamic of your lifestyle is something you want to hold on to, great. Yeah. If it's something you want changed and also include another person, a partner in that life, you want to start creating the vision of the relationship before you ever have an attachment to a specific person.
Yeah, see, we always say it this way. Everybody's fighting for love on their own terms, but most people have no clue what their terms are.
None.
They haven't sat down to figure out what's really important to them in a relationship, what's really important to them in a partner, what's really important about that dynamic that they're looking for, right? So get clear on what you really want, what you really desire, what would make you feel happy, right? And then start, putting together a plan, because love isn't just going to happen. It's not just going to show up someday. It's like you're sitting there feeling sad and alone, and I get it. I've been there. But sitting at home feeling sad and alone isn't going to get you anything any different in your life.
Because the pizza delivery guy, he's too young for you anyway. He's probably like 17, 18, 19 maybe, right? Like, no. The cable man, no. The UPS guy, the Amazon delivery guy, no. None of those people are going to show up at your door.
What about Instacart?
Probably not your guy. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, they're probably not going to knock on your door. So you need a plan of action. But first, you need to know what the goal looks like, feels like, smells like, tastes like. Like, know what your soulmate dynamic in that relationship is in your lifestyle, and what is that dynamic between the two of you. Do not go out and make a list of the qualities of the guy. I want him this tall, and I want this color hair, and he should drive this car, have a job like this, or this much money in the bank. Like, your heart does not care how tall somebody is. Your heart doesn't care how much money somebody has in the bank. Like, none of that stuff matters.
Yeah.
What does your heart want? So know about yourself and know about what you really want. Know what your terms are. If you don't know your terms for love, you end up like your little cork on the ocean of life, of your love life, just being bounced around.
And your lovability is in the hands of everybody else. It's not in your own hands, right? Yeah. You're waiting for somebody to come and say, I choose you. You're lovable. You're worth it, right?
It's putting too much power in this other person's hands.
And you're just going to end up with really bad heartbreak, like we started talking about, right?
So we don't want you to just start dating. First, do the deep dive. Now, if you've been doing the deep dive, because you said it's been 8 years since your divorce, right? Maybe you've read some books, maybe you've taken some classes, maybe whatever, and you're like, I don't know what else to do, right? And so you're like, you're pretty, you're smart, and you're kind. You don't know what else to do. So what's missing in your question is we don't know what you've done. Like, what have you spent the last 8 years doing?
Yeah.
So if you're live here, go ahead and add on to your comment unless you dropped off or something, wherever that question was collected. Great. Let's see if we can get a follow-up. Let's go on to the next question.
Okay.
All right. So Tamara says, I like who I am, but I can't seem to find a guy who accepts me as I am. Everything starts out great. And after 6 to 9 months, he starts wanting to change me. How do I find someone who is cool with me just as I am? Wow.
That's it.
I think it's a reflection thing, but I'm going to let you
Yeah,
answer.
we always like to say this, like your relationships operate kind of like a funhouse mirror. You know what a funhouse mirror is, right? It either makes you tall and skinny and wiggly or short and squat, right? It distorts the image so that it doesn't really look like you. It's like
Yeah.
a distorted version of you. And what you need to realize is that in your intimate relationships, this person next to you,
Hi, honey.
I, is a distorted image, right? You're projecting your distorted image onto this person. And so you think, well, I'm cool, I'm good. If this person would just stop doing that thing, like asking me to change, right, then that would be great, right? But the reason you're attracted to men who ultimately want you to change has to do with a piece of self acceptance you're still working out inside of you.
That's our best guess. So
Yeah.
what do you, because we started with heartbreak and you did talk about your last breakup before me.
Okay.
That was a big part of
Oh,
self-acceptance.
I mean,
for you, right?
that was exactly that relationship,
Yeah.
right? So we had this crazy 24-hour first date, and I always said, well, that's a huge red flag right there, right?
Yeah, don't have any 24
Don't have
hour first
any,
dates.
24-hour first dates.
Just
They should only
don't.
be about an hour and a half. So we had a crazy 24-hour first date, and she lived a couple hours away, and so she calls me up the next day and says, look, I had a really great time, and but I don't think this is going to go anywhere. And I'm like, what?
What?
And she goes,
Hold
well,
on a second. Don't just brush that off.
There were
What
a
a
couple of things.
I'm just saying that right there is the biggest red flag of all. She spends 24 hours with you, right, on a first date and calls you up, the next day. And it's
Look.
like, this isn't good. I don't think it's going to work.
Right.
What is that?
Let's just
like,
say
hold the phone, stop the car, park the plane. Like, seriously, this is, I mean, when we talk about a red flag, it's like, this is such, like, whoa, it's like a giant red flag. It's like as big as Clifford the dog.
Yeah. Well, let's just say I was ignoring those flags.
I know.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. And I sort of talked her into, continuing to talk to me. And I end up traveling down to see her.
That's because you're charming and handsome.
I'm pretty good at that. And I ended up traveling down to see her. We have a great weekend. And towards the end of that weekend, she's like, there's this thing, right? And it was always something. There was always something that would come up that she'd be like, this could be different about you.
This
right?
hurts my heart, man. That hurts my heart to hear this.
And I don't know, we probably spent 2.5 months doing this little dance, right? I'd go off and I'd work on it and come back. She'd go, oh, hey, you made those changes. And I'm like, yeah, I did. She was, great, right? And at this point in my life, I was really at this place where I was noticing that everything that was happening in the world was happening as a reflection of something I needed to pay attention to. And so instead of going, well, what's wrong with this person that she keeps asking me to change? This is why I was ignoring the red flags, right? What's wrong with this person that she's asking me to change? I go, well, that's interesting. I wonder what's going on with me that's having this show up in my life. And I really came around to this idea that it was this idea of self-acceptance, because that's always been kind of my journey. I mean, I was always attracted to rejection, right? Because that's what love felt like in my family of origin. And we can go into that, but that's a whole other thing. We'll go down that road some other day, right? So love felt like rejection. So here this woman kept rejecting me in all these subtle little ways, which to me felt right, felt normal, until one day I woke up, I'm like, wait a minute. Here I'm doing that rejection thing again. Oh, okay. So I don't need to do this with her anymore. I can actually figure out what to do with this. And that's when I went, oh, this is another piece of self-acceptance I needed to look at, right? Where was I still rejecting myself? And so I did that work, right? There's a lot of different ways you can do that kind of work, right? But I really focused on that. We do with our clients as well, right? And flash forward about 6 to 8 weeks, and Orna and I had just started dating. And we were probably, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks we've been dating.
Nothing longer than that, more like a couple months.
More like a couple of months. I was over at her place, and she was cooking dinner. And I made some self-deprecating comment. And she looks at me and she says,
you don't have to change for me. Like, no, actually, I didn't say that to start. I said, wait a second. Yeah. What are you doing? Be nice to this guy. I like him. You don't have to change anything for me.
Yeah. You're perfect me exactly as you are.
Yeah. I said, you're perfect.
This is how she ended that.
You don't have to change a thing.
And for the first time in my life, I didn't, in my mind, I didn't argue with her, because normally in the past it would have been, well, wait.
Inner dialogue.
Right. Wait till you get to know me, right?
Yeah,
You're going to be looking for things you want to change, right?
And so what I want to say to Tamara is this. That you're saying, I like who I am, but the guy starts to want to change you. And so there's a difference between liking yourself and having the way somebody is with you in a relationship be a match for what you desire. So there's could be a mismatch. So we call this a love imprint match.
Right.
Because there's something when you said everything starts out great. Like I'm looking at your question again. Everything starts out great. And it's almost like highlighted in my brain. And then 6 to 9 months, he wants to change you. So if it starts out great, meaning he's into you and you're into him, and it evolves into this thing where it's like you're needled about change. Like, oh, I don't like this. You need to change that. Well, let's make you better this way. Oh, let's like he has a fixer upper, right? You know, it's like Nephew's brother's constantly like buying like a boat for $25.
You know, she rebuilds.
You know, you rebuild, right? It's a fixer upper. People do that with houses, right? A fixer upper, right? And so it's like these guys are treating you like a fixer upper, but there's an attraction in the beginning because you said everything starts out great. So when we say it's a funhouse mirror, right? This reflection thing, and you're like, I like who I am. Why am I attracting these guys? So it's not about whether you like yourself. It's about how you learn to receive love in your family of origin.
Yeah.
Because we call that your love imprint. It's like your own personal GPS for love. And when you have your personal GPS for love that is out of alignment with your true heart's desire, you're going to be running this kind of pattern, right? So maybe in your family of origin, you never, you were always stretching to please a parent, right? Or a caregiver.
Or maybe you had a parent who was constantly critical of you and who you were and what you were doing, right? That you were never quite good enough, right? Maybe that's the pattern going on.
So there could be a lot of ways that love was expressed in your family of origin. And the thing is when you're that little girl in that family and that whatever dynamic is going on, you will accept whatever they tell you about yourself, right? You will accept it because however you are loved in your family of origin, you must accept it as that little kid, right? No little kid says, gee, mom, gee, dad, this is really bad parenting. You know, what I really need from you right now is for you to give me a hug and tell me everything's going to be okay and that you love me.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have the capacity to do that. Instead, we see our parents' behavior and we see ourselves as the cause of that behavior.
We take full responsibility in this really weird way. We say, in a sense, what is wrong with me that my parent is behaving this way? What is wrong with me that my parent is unable to love me the way I need to be loved?
Kind of deep, right?
And in that, we take on this sort of core wounding, and that core wounding gets played out in our adult relationships. So you've done a great start of identifying a pattern in your relationships. Yeah. And now that you've identified the pattern, you can start going backwards and say, okay, so how does this reflect my family of origin? What's that story there? What's the wounding there?
Where does it line up?
Right?
Where does this idea of needing to change and not be you, how does that line up with how you were loved in your family of origin? And so this is the weird part. Your mind will actually be attracted to what is familiar. And that's the rub. Because most of us weren't loved how we wanted to be loved in our family of origin. So we end up attracting people who reject us, who want us to change, who treat us as if we're unlovable, right? So this is a very deep foundational level program, this idea of a love imprint, right? Yeah. Your own personal GPS for love. And that's really the foundation of the coaching work we do with our clients. We can actually create change because ultimately it didn't come from the behavior of your parents, right? Your parents had behavior, but little Tamara made meanings out of those events of the past.
Yeah, that's what we mean by you took full responsibility for their behavior. You took on a meaning about yourself, right? A limiting, belief or feeling or
a strategy
or like a wounding. There's a lot of different ways to talk about it, right? But you took full responsibility of their behavior.
Yeah.
Instead of, being able to say, well, these are flawed people who were raised by flawed people who were raised by flawed people, right? Because that's really what's going on.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all, and like nobody was loved 24/7, 365 exactly how they wanted to be loved, right? But we assign meanings to these events and those meanings are malleable. And so this is how we create change with our clients. So you could read a bunch more on our blog, loveonpurpose.com, and just go to the blog. You can search all kinds of, and there's a search bar there. You can search Your Love imprint. You'll find a ton of articles about Your Love imprint. And I think it'll start to open up your understanding about why you are, quote unquote, stuck in this pattern, right? So you say, how do I find someone who is cool with me just as I am? You actually want more than that. You want somebody that you will find attractive, right? So the change happens inside of you, right? So once that change happens inside of you, then someone who doesn't want you to change will be highlighted and attractive to you instead of going on this familiar pattern. So we don't know enough about your family of origin to know how this lines up, but you can dig in, and you sound like you are pretty smart. You said you're smart, so I'm going to take you at your word. Oh, that was actually the other person. Okay, we're going to.
I'm sure everybody's smart here.
Yeah.
So I just want to say once again, this is love intervention, right? We are here to intervene in your love life to get you on the path towards the long-lasting, soul-satisfying love that you really desire.
That's right. I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters.
And if you are catching us live on our Facebook page, guess what? You can ask a question right there in the comments section. Please like, comment, share, all that good stuff on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, just click that little bell. You'll be notified the next time. And if you have a question for us there and you're watching the stream on YouTube, just go ahead and put your question there. Our team will forward it over here. If you're on the live stream in Vimeo, go ahead and add your questions. We've got team members collecting those and putting them in here. Thank you for your hard work today, team members.
Yep.
We can't do this without you. We're so grateful. All right.
I'm going to jump down because we've got one that's sort of about heartbreak, right? It's about a breakup. So let's do that one. This is Daniel, right? And Daniel says, I can't seem to stop thinking about my ex-girlfriend. We broke up about 3 months ago. Well, I broke up with her, and I think I made a big mistake. How do I get her back?
How do I get her back?
Well, we've already talked about this.
Have not to, right? We talked about the pussy comeback.
Well, no, but the opposite is true,
I know,
right?
The opposite is true. I can't seem to stop thinking about my ex-girlfriend. Broke up 3 months ago. You initiated the breakup, and I think I made a big mistake.
So I think it's simple, but it's not easy, right? Because it's a risk, and you're going to have to take a risk because you have no control over her response. She might have been like, well, he broke up with me, I'm done with him. She might have been like Orna, right? Or she might be heartbroken too, right? And so here's what you're going to say, because you actually say it in your question. The first thing out of your mouth when you talk to her is you're going to say, hey, Susan or Mary or whatever her name is, I think I made a big mistake. And you're going to start there. You're going to own the fact that, look, you made a choice.
Own it.
And you're not happy with your choice and you'd like to redo it. And you may even name that mistake, right? You said, look, I had a story in my head that said, you were this or that, or
I this or I that,
or I thought maybe there was something better out there, whatever BS you were telling yourself that caused you to break up this relationship, because clearly you do like this person, right? And so you're going to go back and I'm not going to say you're going to crawl on hands and knees, but that's going to be kind of the attitude you're going to bring to it, because you're going to say, look, I screwed up and I throw myself at your feet and I want to come back. I want to be back with you. I think you're amazing. I think you're great. And list great qualities that she has and say, I regret my decision. What can I do to make it up to you?
That's the part I was waiting for you to get to.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You got to own the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You got to apologize for it. And here's the key part. You willing to make amends.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win your trust back. I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you and I'm so sorry. Right. And you know what? You could start a little more timidly if you're not the grand gesture isn't really your style. You could reach out and say, I'm so sorry. I've made a mistake and I want to know if you're willing to talk with me. You can reach out, via like a text message or something a little more on the down low and just say, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Are you willing to talk with me? I'd love to connect with you. And then find out, right? Maybe she's moved on. And if she's moved on, you got to wish her well, right? You say, I'm so sorry I messed up. And please, if this, I hope it works out for you because you seem happy. But if it doesn't, will you hold on to my number or something like that? Or if she is, like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you've reached out. I'd love to connect. And she isn't seeing someone else. You can say, tell me what I need to do to make this up to you. I will do whatever you ask me to do. I want to work to win your trust back. And I made a terrible mistake. So own it and claim her.
Yeah.
Tell her you want her back.
There's nothing
Yeah.
sexier than claiming a woman.
It's true.
It's really great.
Even in this day and age, I mean, I think a lot of times people, men are a little like, I don't know if she's going to like that. It's just sexy. You're not going to claim her like in those old movies and take her against her will. That's not what we're saying.
No.
We're saying claim her, meaning say the words. Tell her you want to claim her.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, you're still available. Wow. Right. Watch this at the beginning. It's going to live wherever you've been watching it. We were talking about the pussy comeback guy. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Do the other thing.
Don't go, hey, are you still out there? Maybe, possibly.
I found your hair tie.
That CD.
I found your hair tie. Don't you want this back? I mean, I know it was like 50 cents. But don't do that. Okay? Like, really, like, tell her, own it, own your mistake, claim her, be willing to make amends.
Make a big gesture.
Make a big grand gesture.
And we're not talking like,
roses.
And,
don't do that.
Booking a carriage or something. No, not doing that. Big gesture meaning opening your heart and saying, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and I'm gonna really say what's in my heart.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have KK from YouTube says, love you guys and your work. Thank you. And exclamation points. I love that part. Great to see you. Well, it's great to have you here, KK. Kiki, KK.
I think it's just KK, yeah.
Like initials.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So do you guys think going through your course will help someone with money issues as well? I'm 29, and I don't know what type of career I want. It's a messed up relationship. I need purpose outside of romance. Most of my romantic connections have been really fantasy-based, either one-sided attraction, narcissistic guys, who love bomb and then leave. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, those are terrible. And I want so much more for you. So look, here's the deal. If you need a course correction on your life, ultimately, when you say, will our course help you? I want to say what we provide is a life makeover for a love makeover.
Yeah.
And not everybody needs a quote unquote life makeover, but you get one anyway, meaning every part of your life gets better. So will it help with money issues? Yes. Because the parts that we work on are like those holistic being parts of you, right?
Well, I want to say this because the little bit you've told us about your relationship tells us there's a lot going on there and it hasn't been too pleasant for you, and that you're looking to, well, let me stop thinking about love because that's a big mess.
Yeah.
And let me focus on money, right? And I want to say that you're a holistic being, so you don't need to separate it out that way. You just need to you need to look at the deeper issues of what's going on, because I would guess that whatever issues are going on that cause you to be in these fantasy and or narcissistic relationships, probably playing into why you're feeling lost and aimless in your career and you don't really know what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like finding purpose in your career is going to help you forget about love, because love isn't working.
It's really not. So that's a great point. Like, we don't want you looking for like a distraction from the heartache that we started off talking about, right?
Yeah.
Heartache and heartbreak. But all of these parts of you grow together. In other words, that's what we mean by a life makeover for a love makeover. Like, we have, I think every client, especially the ones with the little kids, every client we've ever had with young children, their relationship with their young children evolves and grows so much better.
Yeah, I remember this one client who, even before she had met her now husband, her son, I think he was like 6 or 7 years old, and she was having all kinds of power struggle issues with him. He wasn't doing his chores and he was fighting with her. And she started taking the tools that we were teaching her about love and dating and relationship and communication, particularly. Right. Yeah. And she started using them with her son. And, it got to the point to where he was like volunteering. He's like, can I set the table?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll do the dishes.
I'll do the dishes.
She was like, oh my gosh. Right. In a really short amount of time also. So, it only takes one person to change a relationship, like in any dynamic, right? A friend relationship, a family relationship, a parent-child relationship, right? It only takes one person. But really, this sounds more like I don't want to say like a global issue, like there's something wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
But feeling sort of aimless in life, so we don't know if you're looking like, will it help here because I don't want to look about the love stuff right now, which is fine, right? But I think it's more looking at the global stuff that's going on with you. And before we were doing this work together, we met through a business networking group. So Matthew had his hypnotherapy practice in Beverly Hills, and online hypnosis done with business, with a business partner. And I had my manifestation coaching business. And in my manifestation coaching business, I have a really great tool where it says, what is your life purpose? Like your life purpose is not an occupation, right? That's
Right.
like your life purpose is so much more than an occupation and how you earn a living. However, your occupation must be in alignment with your life purpose in order for you to have fulfillment in life. So I think back to like, the Great Recession, as they call it, like 2008, that whole period of time. I call that like the year of the suits in my coaching business. Because instead of getting all the creative, yuppie hippie people, I was getting all of these suits, like these Wall Street people and these real estate people and these, like, it was so bizarre. Like the real estate market had bottomed out. And I mean, all these suits showed up, right? Men and women. And they were like, where's fulfillment? Where's fulfillment? I had money. That wasn't fulfilling, right? And so really what you're asking for is, how do I find fulfillment, right? How do you get some direction, right? And this is the perfect time for you, honestly, because 29, like I always say, your 20s are about discovering who you are and your 30s are about stepping into it. But 20s are the discovery. Who am I? Like we always say, don't ever get married until you're at least 30.
Because, in your late teens is when you start to individuate from your parents and step out of the family and explore the world as who you are. And it takes a while to figure that out, right?
So your 20s are
for
discovery.
Some people are, and I'm going to say it this way, some people are just extremely lucky in that they discover something early on in life, whether it's like athletics or performance of some kind or something like that.
And they have a talent.
They have a talent or a skill or a gift, and they step into that and they experience all this great success early, right? In their late teens, early 20s. Right. Now, what's interesting is we've known some of those people, right? Some people who had a lot of success early on.
Especially in the entertainment industry.
And in athletics as well.
Oh, yeah.
And what's interesting is as they get older, their
self-esteem
kind of tanks, right? Because they no longer have that thing that their youth brought them. And they haven't been able to redefine.
They end up kind of lost.
They end up a little bit lost. And unless they find something else, right, that then fulfills their purpose.
And so what we're saying is we have a big skill set, like we have a really big toolbox between the two of us. So, we'd love to support you. You can always reach out to us. Right? Yeah. So that's what I would say is we definitely have tools that can help you. And we'd love to be able to do that. So,
and the easiest way is to just email us at support@loveonpurpose.com.
Yeah.
So support at Love on Purpose. This is Love Intervention. We're here to intervene in your love life to help you get that soul-satisfying, long-lasting love that you desire.
That's right. I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters.
And we're going to go to the next question from Flo.
Let's go up,
I want to read Flo.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we did the change thing. So, okay. We'll come back to Flo. Sorry, Flo.
Yeah.
You want to look at these?
Let's do Jonathan here with his empty nester.
Go ahead.
All right. So Jonathan says, my wife and I are going to be empty nesters very soon. I'm excited and nervous. Any advice for an old guy like me? I really love my wife, but without the kids in and out all the time, I'm afraid she'll be bored with me.
Oh,
that's really sweet.
Jonathan, you love your wife, and I bet she loves you too.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about the empty nester thing, right? Yeah, I mean, your focus has probably been on the kids for a good, 18 to 20, maybe even more, right? Maybe they're on the other side of college, maybe not. But empty nesters probably they're going off to college, is my guess. The last one's going off to college. And it's not like, oh, you're not going to see your kids again. But yes, they won't be in and out on the daily sort of routine. And I think this is sweet. And I think that what you want to ask your wife is that you want to start constituting some date nights. And those date nights don't have to be necessarily going out. They can be an indoor date night, as in an adult date night. Now, I don't have to get too risque, right? But I want to say there are sexy things that you can do at home together now that you're not going to worry about kids coming home at whatever hour, right? When they're done doing whatever they're doing, especially on a weekend night when you might have a little more time for yourselves. And so, you might start off asking her if there's some activity she would like to do, or you might sign yourselves up for a class, right?
Well,
hold on, I'm going to give a few suggestions. You're interrupting me.
Sorry.
So here's the thing. At home date nights or go out date nights, start doing those, right? Like maybe there's something you two used to do back when the dating process that you haven't done in a long time. Like maybe you want to go take a dance class together, right? Maybe you want to take like a ballroom dance class or some kind of partner dance class together. So inside, staying home dates, going out dates, all of that stuff is more about creating the space for emotional connection. And that space for emotional connection actually creates a deeper physical connection too. So you can rekindle that romance.
Now that sounds nice. So I want to go with this a slightly different way, actually a very different way. Um, I would guess that up to this point, your life, like Orna said, has been focused on the kids,
Yeah.
and that's been your goal, right? Your goal together as parents, as a couple, is to make sure these kids are got what they need to go out in the world and live the lives they want to live. And I would guess as well that maybe one or both of you probably haven't thought much about what you really want with the rest of your life. And that maybe this would be a great
Yeah.
opportunity for you to sit down and say, hey, look, we have our lives in front of us. And we have an opportunity to do things and explore things and all that kind of stuff. And so I want to start by asking what do you want? Right?
Let's make some
What's
goals
exciting?
together.
Let's make some goals together. Let's see what we can go out and do. Right. And I doubt your wife's going to say, I just really want to sit and watch Netflix every night, right? Have a glass of wine and go to bed and start again the next day,
Yeah,
right?
and
I doubt that that's what she's thinking.
here's the thing is I love this, because people come together early in a relationship and they talk about what they want their life to look like. But year after year after year, decade after decade, we stop updating those goals with our romantic partners. But if any of you have a career in any kind of business, every business is looking at what do we want to accomplish in the next year? What do we want to accomplish in the next 5 years? What do we want to
Yep.
accomplish in the next 10 years? What do we want, right? And when we're younger, what is your life going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years? What's your 10-year plan? What's your 5-year plan, right?
Yeah.
So do this for your relationship. Like say to your wife, look, I know the kids are gonna be up and out of the house soon. I think it'd be fun to start creating goals together. And some can be just for you and your wife, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some of them can be for you and your kids, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe you plan a yearly vacation to some. Maybe it's a different place every time, and you rotate who in the family that gets to pick the location or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to update your goals. So you want to start with the nuclear, right? Like, what do you want? What does she want? And then what do the two of you want? What are those goals as a couple? Then what are those goals as a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately you've raised these, you sound like a wonderful man, and I'm sure you have a wonderful wife, and I'm sure you've got these great kids. And they're gonna meet somebody, and they're gonna fall in love, and they're gonna, all of that. So can you create a legacy that you pass on? That's this tradition, this ritual that you and your wife create right now that you pass on to your kids. And what does that look like? And how do you experience it? Excellent advice, Mr. Walters.
Yeah, well, you're welcome.
We're
Let's see.
going to take some more questions here.
Yeah, we got a great one here at the bottom from Shelly. Shelly says, I'm learning so much from you both. My question is there a time frame for different stages and getting engaged / married?
Boy, did you come to the right place, Shelly. I can let you start.
Did. Well, there's a lot of ways we can approach this. We can first talk about what we learned from a mentor of ours, Dr. Susan Campbell, which are the 5 stages of relationship, right? And these are natural stages that all relationships go through. Now, I want to say there are not time frames on the stages, right? It shouldn't be like, well, this stage is about 3 months and this one's probably 6 months.
No,
right?
but we
It's nothing
can
like that.
help you avoid the potholes. We'll
Exactly.
let you know. And did you want me to start?
If you want
I
to
threw
start.
it to you. Okay.
Yeah.
So we all know the first 2 stages of relationship. Everybody here knows them. Once I label them, I'm like, oh, right. So the first stage of relationship is the romance stage, right? And that romance stage, there's no other way to say it except for like, it's this intoxicating, yummy, feel good. Oh my gosh, do no wrong. Your partner is just magical and perfect for you. Yeah. And then it wears off. All those chemicals wear off. And you hit stage number 2, the power struggle stage.
Yeah.
So what we want to say to you, Shelly, is no couple skips the power struggle. Nobody. I don't care if you're now dating somebody you've known for 20 years or your whole life, or you just happen now to fall in love and get romantic. I don't care how well you think you know that person, you will hit a power struggle stage.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking earlier about teenagers individuate in the family in their teenage years. In a relationship, it's like the relationship is now a teenager in a sense. So what you're looking for, it's not amount of time, but what you want is the right person for you over time. is where you have a very long and lengthy romance phase. That romance phase is so essential because it's the promise of what can be if the couple continues to choose each other and makes their way through that very difficult power struggle stage.
Yeah.
So in the romance phase, your partner can do no wrong. In the power struggle, it's like they can do no right.
Exactly. So it starts out with, wow, I love you. You're so different. It's so exciting getting to know you. And then it gets to, wow, you're so different. If only you were more like me.
If only we did things my way.
If we only did things my way, only if you saw my point of view, right, then everything would be great.
Like, I've been doing this a long time. We're going to get along so much better if you just load the dishwasher the way I tell you to do it. I know how to load the dishwasher.
Exactly.
I've done all the research.
So it could be little things like the dishwasher. It could be bigger things in your life, right? But there's a power struggle, and that power struggle is that part of you that's like, it's gone from merging with this person, because there is that feeling, in a really good romance phase, it really does feel like, oh my God, we've become one, right? But you're not one. You're actually three in our math, right? Because the bad Hollywood math says, one person, another person come together and they become this one being. 1 + 1 = 1, right? No. The bad math that really works is 1 + 1 = 3. Because what you've come together to create is not a merging of two individuals into one. You've come together to create this third entity, which is called the relationship, right? And so you've merged into this relationship with this other person. And now you're like, wait, what about me? And you want to step out of that, right?
And individuate.
And so it starts this power struggle, which is like a tug of war.
It's literally a tug of war.
It's an ego struggle.
Yeah.
Right. And so to get past the power struggle, you got to get past that ego part of you that says, no, I'm right. My way is right, whatever that is, and go to, no, actually, this relationship, this third entity I've created, is more important than my individual ego stuff. Not her needs are more important than my needs. The relationship is more important than my ego needs.
Because here's the thing, we almost never resolve any sort of disagreement or conflict really with deciding who's right. Because if somebody's right, then somebody's wrong. So we get really creative and we have to find a win-win. And I get that traditional couples counseling has people acquiescing and meeting in the middle. But we're not wired that way because we both have passion as part of our purpose.
That's right.
And so we just can't. Because giving up something that you want feels like passionless. And we're both very passionate people, in case you couldn't tell. And so for us, it's like we have to find the win-win. So we get the ego out of the way. And once we resolve whatever conflict, we now can be in the space of just emotionally connecting. And we don't have to worry about who was right or who was wrong or any of that sort of mumbo jumbo.
Because we have the goal, what we really want, which is emotional connection, right?
So the time frame thing, here's the thing. You want a long and lengthy romance phase. So if your romance stage is truncated, if it's shorter than a year, right? Like our clients have really long romance phases. We have a client right now who reached out to us. She's actually on the calendar for a session later in the week. She is engaged and they are getting married. We're going to their wedding, I think, in October.
Yeah.
And so, which is right around our anniversary. And so we're going to be at their wedding. And she had reached out and was like, oh, I think I need to get on the phone. I think we've hit that power struggle stage. And they've been together, I want to say 5 years.
Yeah.
I think it's been around
something
5 years.
Like that, yeah.
And so they're just now feeling like it's the power struggle. And that doesn't mean they've never had a disagreement or a conflict or anything like that. Because I think sometimes people think any conflict means the romance stage is over. The power struggle stage is a fight cycle. It's the same fight, right? And so when you find yourself in a truncated romance stage, in other words, it should be easy, pretty easy for a long time. It should feel good and easy, and the two of you can work things out. It's when you hit that fight cycle is that power struggle stage. And then the third stage of relationship is called the stability stage. You want to talk about that?
And that's where you've said, look, I'm going to stop fighting this other person for my ego needs, and I'm going to fight for the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And when you make that choice, it's a conscious choice that you have to make. You say, look, we are more important than me. Right.
Well, the key, honestly, in the stability stage to get through the power struggle is to defer to one another's strengths.
Yeah.
Like it's really obvious in our relationship because, we say our relationship should be stamped for professionals only. Please don't try this at home. Because for us, it's like we spend so much time together, and so working together and being married, so personal life and professional life are very merged.
Mhm.
But each of us really wanted that, so it's not for everybody. But for us, the stability stage is really became easy when we were working together because it's easy to defer to one another's strengths when we're in the business side of our life together, right? Because we have differing strengths and differing skill sets. But you have to do that in your home life. You have to do that around all the things in your life with this other person, right? So it's about deferring to one another's strengths, right? That's the key to the stability stage. And then the fourth stage is really what you're asking about, because the fourth stage of relationship, meaning you've gone all the way through a romance phase, you've gone through the fight cycle, power struggle, which is can feel really just, it can be heart wrenching if you're in the fantasy that there isn't going to be conflict in your soulmate relationship.
Right.
I remember Matthew broke my heart the first time in our relationship, and I felt in the moment, I felt devastated because I was like, I didn't think you would break my heart. Like, I was hurt. Something happened and I got hurt, and he made amends and apologized. And I was like, oh my God, it's a whole nother story I don't want to tell today. But I just want to say, I asked for like this little thing and he gave me, I asked for like a centimeter and he gave me like 10 miles. I mean, it was amazing. Like, his amends was so like a grand gesture. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, he really made it up to me. Right. And so the commitment stage of relationship, after you've gone all the way through romance, power struggle, stability, the commitment stage is the fourth stage of relationship. And that's when you look at this person and you say, I see who you are, warts and all. I got the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I choose you anyway.
Right.
I take you as is.
So I can't remember who we were speaking to earlier who had, all the boyfriends after 6 to 9 months wanted to change, right? They're not ready for that commitment with her because they're not ready to accept her who she is, right?
Yeah.
To say, hey, there's some things that if they did change, I probably wouldn't argue with you about it, but I don't need them to change in order to stay with you.
Yeah.
I'm willing to say all the good stuff I get, I'll put up with these other things that maybe I don't like as much.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't care because I love the bigger picture.
I mean, like, we took in a kitten in January, and she's a little bit of a terror. I mean, she's a kitten, and we love her, and she's adorable, but she
like a little feral.
She was quite feral when we brought her in. She's calmed down a lot, but she like destroyed something, and I was like, oh, I'd rather have the kitten. It kind of has to be like that. It's like the commitment stage is like, oh, you broke all my garden tools. I don't know who would do that. I don't know who would break all my garden tools, but if somebody were to break all my garden tools, I would kind of be like, well, I'd rather have you than all those garden tools. And I guess it was time for new garden tools, right?
Better ones.
Well, I don't want to talk about how many digging forks we've been through, but I think you get the understanding, right? So there's 5 stages. I want to give them all to you. So there's the romance phase, that intoxicating coming together and merging. There's the individuation stage, right? The power struggle stage, where you're in a fight cycle. There's the stability stage where the couple learns to fight for the relationship instead of each other. There's the commitment stage. That's the engagement and getting married. Most couples do it the other way around. They get engaged in the romance, and by the time there's the wedding, they're in a power struggle and having all of these nerves. Am I making the right choice? Yeah. You have to be on the other side. You actually have to be through the other side of the power struggle and through the stability stage to be able then to say, oh, I choose you, warts and all, and make the commitment. And then, right, because people think the commitment stage has to do with exclusivity. Exclusivity can be all the way in the front.
You're really teasing us. What's stage 5?
Stage 5. You want to get it?
Stage 5 is what we call the bliss or co-creation stage, right? And this is where the love between the two of you is really, it's kind of bigger than the two of you. Right. And it needs to expand out into the world. And maybe that's a family. Maybe that's like what we do. It's our business together, right? Yeah. It's this work that we want to put out in the world, right? We love each other so much that we want to share that with all of you and help you get that love. Yeah. Right. It could be, if you're older, it could be, philanthropic work. It could be a cause, right, that you take up together.
You can foster kittens together, right?
Whatever Puppies, it is, right? But it's like the bliss and co-creation is like the two of you have so much love that it expands. And it has to spread into the world.
It's spills out outside of just these two people, right? So it could spread into little beings and children, right? Or it could spread out into the community and do some good together, right?
Yeah.
That's really what this is all about. I love your big giant yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Shelly. So appreciate you. Everybody who had a question today. I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody's question, but we will be back in 2 weeks on June the 7th. So please join us for our next love intervention, June 7th. Spread the word.
Yep.
You can feel free, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, comment there, click the bell on YouTube, share this video on Facebook, tag your friends. And if you have a comment or a reaction, we love that also. And if you joined us here on Vimeo, thank you so much. I'm Orna Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this has been Love Intervention. We're here every 2 weeks to intervene in your love life so that you can get on the path to the long-lasting, soul-satisfying love you desire.
Thank you to our team. We couldn't do this without you. And thank you all for joining us, whether you're catching this after the fact on the replay or you joined us live. We